Hello, fellow Econauts, and welcome back to our show. I'm here with my brother Ben, the Rocketman, and we are talking about the future of the Artemis program. Hey Ben, how are you?
Hey Simon, how's it going? Hey fellow Econauts. Yeah, today we want to talk about the future of the Artemis program.
We will start with Artemis 4, of course, and also take a look at Artemis 5. Obviously, all those missions that are in the future depend on each other and also the success of the missions that are planned in the near future. Maybe,
Yeah.
Ben, you can let us know a little bit about the Artemis 4 project, Artemis 4 mission and also Artemis 5. I know that we have material available. Maybe we can put that on screen really quick.
Yes, we don't want to go through the details like we did before, because as you just mentioned, they are highly vague at this point. I mean, they're quite detailed in the plan, but they depend on many steps of the other missions. So in general, 4 and 5, and also 6 and 7 are really there to add modules to Gateway. Gateway will be a space station orbiting the moon. Has to be delivered, obviously, between 3 and 4. That's one of the cornerstones which are required to be successful in order for Artemis 4 to go ahead. Likewise, Artemis 4, 5, and I believe any successive launch or any successive Artemis mission will include a landing with a human landing system. So it's also important that a human landing system is available and refueled as well. So they either have to be delivered or refueled. And yeah, so that's pretty much the gist of 4, 5, 6, and 7. Um, Anything afterwards, 9, 8, 9, 10, and 11 will be about delivering a lunar habitat on the lunar surface, according to the plans currently. And they are there to build a permanent presence on the moon.
I think at this point it is also important to mention that um, it is very easy to say Artemis 4 mission, 5 mission, 6 mission. In our video, everything sounds like, oh, that's very quick. But I think it's also important to mention that between each mission, there might be a year or even longer before the mission is actually getting
Yes, yeah.
started, right? I think, and maybe I'm wrong if I say that, but my belief is that at some point it will get quicker from one mission to another because first of all, um, people on the moon or the team on the moon or in the moon orbit is depending on
Yes,
getting
yes, yes.
resupplies, obviously. But I think it is safe to say that the missions that are planned in right now, they are still years in between each other. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So you could say the plans currently would allow for Artemis 6 to take place in 2030. Accordingly, 4 and 5 have to happen between now and then, obviously. Also, Artemis 2 and 3 haven't even launched yet. So they have to happen around, I would say, 2028, 2029, 2030. And um, everything after to build the lunar habitat is planned to happen until 2035. Now, I personally think, and just to, what is the goal here? The goal, obviously, for the lunar habitat and Artemis is not the moon, but as you can guess, is actually getting to Mars. I personally believe that we see a Mars mission way before 2035. And obviously that wouldn't really align to the Artemis mission for the current stage. So I think you're right. At some stage, we might have a more repetitive launch of an SLS for resupply. And let's see what happens, really.
I think and we speculated in other episodes as well. I think a very good plan is to think about having a station in orbit of Earth, having a station in orbit of the moon, and also a base on the moon. I think that these three cornerstones need to be established first. That's my opinion. To make resupply easier, to make it more affordable as well, right? Because and we talked about that when we talked about the SLS rocket and also the Orion spacecraft. How much fuel is actually needed to escape the gravity of Earth? It's like incredible. If you want to check it out, we have like for the SLS rocket and Orion in detail information on our channel. But this is not sustainable, right? We need to find a way to make it so much easier to go between the moon and Earth back and forth so that we can secure that we have like a resupply line established, right? And
Yes,
also to have like resources maybe coming back from the moon back to Earth if that is possible, right?
that's correct. And I mean, I don't see so far how we can avoid the expenses to get off Earth. Obviously, more infrastructure will help with that in some sense, even being able to schedule better and having more, more opportunities to go to orbit. But for me, the whole point is how do we get to Mars in an affordable and sustainable way? And that, in my opinion, and also in many other people's opinion, can only happen with the Artemis program, which is still depending on many, many things to be successful, such as building the permanent base, such as finding a viable source of water on the lunar surface so that we can make fuel and propellant on the moon. And I think that's for me the cornerstone, what has to happen. I personally don't see how we can make it more affordable or cheaper to transit between Earth and Moon so far. Because, resupply has to come from Earth,
Obviously, yeah.
and therefore we always have to escape Earth gravitational well in order to get to the Moon. For me, the point is really to get from the Moon to Mars instead of going from Earth to Mars. So, either by sending stuff to the Moon, more and more supply. Yes, we lose a lot of fuel then, but we make it at least possible to go from the moon to Mars. Or, as I just mentioned, to have water on the moon from whatever source, hydroxyls in the regolith or water ice in permanent shade regions. That is, that's for me the exciting stuff, really.
I I absolutely agree. I think the first step needs to be establishing a line between moon and Earth. I think that's very very important. And like you said, I mean, every single time we have to launch a rocket, it's like we said before, escaping Earth. It's such a endeavor. If we can cut the cost, then suddenly everything it's like a domino effect, right? Things will suddenly propel so quickly.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. Like we have seen in many areas in technology. I mean, even if we look at the first computers, they were like rooms full of electronics. And if we look at our smartphones today, many people may not even know that the smartphone today has more capacity than we had available when we actually launched the first person to the moon, right? I mean, that's incredible if you really think about that. And that's I think it's a model that we can easily also put on our journey from Earth to the moon and then later to Mars. Wouldn't you agree
Yeah,
with that?
that's correct. Yeah, I agree. And the key here is not necessarily to decrease the cost of the fuel, because that's a physical or thermodynamical constant, if you want. So that's always about 87 to 90% of the fuel expended for launching of Earth. But there are other ways to reduce the cost, such as the need for less equipment, being able to schedule better. My TEDx talk, which is it's actually it's very close and it will be released, I guess, in February next year on YouTube. But some people will be able to see that live. Will be exactly about that. That not just the technology, also being able to schedule and having even years in advance knowing when you can launch, that can help to reduce the cost of a launch as well.
Right. And I think it's also important to mention that right now we have to calculate with very large rockets to to push a very small spacecraft into space. If we have something like a some facility in space that allows us to build a spacecraft, then we can actually build a much larger craft in space that needs less fuel to actually go even further, right? And that's I
Be
think
careful with that. You still have to get the material up. So we have not unlocked space mining yet. But I get your point. I get your point.
I can dream,
Yeah, you can dream.
I'm still looking into Star Trek,
If it's really far in the future, I do agree. Once we have material in orbit already, and we don't have to get it from Earth, yes, you're right. But as long as we have to get it from Earth's surface, we will not really be able to avoid the energy cost we have to pay in terms of fuel. But yes, if once we have the material already in orbit, or even on the moon or wherever, that's a complete different story. That's a game changer. And it's a bit like a net. We are like a spider in the net, waiting for the perfect asteroid to fly by, and then just capture it. And flyby can mean still it's quite far away. But that's an option. As long as we don't have that infrastructure capable to deal with this amount of information and material, there's no need or no opportunity for us. So you start with a street before you build a race car. And that's what we need to do. We need to build the infrastructure before we build, we need the superhighway to space, however that looks like.
I absolutely agree. And I think that the future looks very promising. I would like to end that for today. It was very nice talking to you about the future of the Artemis program. If you like this episode, please don't forget to leave a like. Subscribe if you haven't already.
And hit the notification bell.
And hit the notification bell. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.